Okay, welcome Mike and Gannat to Cyber Power of Tigray. Power of Tigray, we will start our discussion with Mike and Gannat Fistum regarding the current political situation in Tigray and Ethiopia. Uh, I would like to ask you, Gannat, to introduce yourself. And I do appreciate that you are also being my guest today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ephrem, and nice to see you, Mike. And it's a pleasure to be here. Welcome, everyone. It is a pleasure as Tigrayans, people from Tigray. We are proud. We are extremely devastated at this time, but we will not focus on that. And our focus will be how do we change the circumstances that our people are in. And I am happily here joining you guys, and we'll see what we discuss. And I thank you for having me.
Yeah, great. Thank you. How about Mike? Yeah, Mike has already been known, but you've been with me for the second time. Most of the people will know you by now, but I would like you to introduce yourself, who you are, and what you do, and all that kind of stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Ephrem, and good to see you again, Gannat. My name is Michael Kassahun. I go by Mike. I live in the state of Oregon. I went to school here at the University of Oregon and studied sociology, and I work at the University of Oregon. And I'm here today with you two and the rest of the audience to discuss and go over the senseless war that has been declared in the state of Tigray in northern Ethiopia.
Great. So our discussion today will be, since the Prime Minister, the current situation, we're trying to see the current situation. Since the Prime Minister came to power in April 2018, the Tigray people in particular and all Ethiopian in general have been facing oppressive and militaristic practices associated with dictatorial regime all over the almost the whole nation. So there are, especially right now, there is the impact of the war, on kids and women and children. And since you two are practicing on the medical field and being a sociologist, Mike, and you are on the medical field also, patient care, you know about the post-traumatic stress disorder, the impact of the war, in particular in our people. So how do you describe the whole situation since this Prime Minister came to the power? Thank you so much.
This situation is the most devastating situation, to say the least. So this is a crime against humanity. Beyond devastating, it is negative for not just Tagaru people of Tigray, but it impacts the entire society as a whole. And this is extremely, it's just pretty much a blow to humanity and to all human beings on Earth, because it's affecting you by pinpointing the finger and saying, because you are from a particular area or a particular origin, you deserve to die. No, that should never be the case. And so this is beyond devastating. The effects that it has, not just on society, but the children, young people. What are we teaching them? What are we teaching our own children? I don't think, fellow Ethiopians that are for the war, I don't think they understand the devastating impact that they are teaching their own children. And then this post-traumatic distress disorder that their parents had from that Darg regime, now it has transpired to them, right? Now they are carrying it on and passing it on to their children. This is huge. You really have to think critically on the impact that you are forming on your own kids here in the United States and everywhere else as diaspora, right? But the impact that it's having on the forefront for children and people of Tigray it is not just only in Tigray, of course, as I mentioned, but throughout the entire Horn of Africa. So this is affecting Eritrea, our brothers and sisters. It is affecting Sudan. It is affecting, thank you, for Sudan, for protecting our refugees and working your best to do everything you can for our people. And additionally, it's the entire region of the Horn of Africa, East Africa, correct? So when we're paying attention to the children, so their mothers, pregnant, having children on their way to the refugee camps, trying to escape war, if not, have already died. So with Abiy, he's stating there are no children that have died. There are no mothers. There are no one pregnant, no one that is affected by this except the criminals, so-called TPLF criminals, he's calling them. I don't even know what they've done. You know, they built infrastructure, they've done a lot for the country, but yet they are demonized. So any situation that is also happening, the target is TPLF did that. So the young people, the children that are dying, and the effects that it is having, it shouldn't be pointing the finger, but they need the government, central government of Ethiopia needs to take accountability for the crimes against humanity that is being committed at this time, and really think about the psychological suffering that is being affected on the children and along with everybody else globally.
Great.
Great.
How about
How
Mike
about Mike
in
on
this regard?
this regard?
Well, I think Gunnet cover a chunk of the sad reality. War is no, but is you don't win anything from war.
Absolutely not.
The tragedy of this is millions of Ethiopians are suffering, starving. When you have fighter jets coming, dropping bombs, tanks, destroying properties, buildings, livelihood people that work so hard in the winter season to get them through the next season, it's devastating. I think in America, they call it PTSD. And I think it's commonly used, PTSD, for the most part, not always. And I don't want to like present this as an expert on everything, but you don't have to be an expert. Your own eyes see things. Your own ears hear things. They don't lie to you. When you see something, when you hear something, you know something is wrong. This war is senseless. It should never happen. Ephrem, you mentioned that the central government has indirectly declared war against the Tigray region. To the American audience, to those who are around the globe, who have followed the politics of it, you may already know. But to those who are new, first and foremost, welcome. And thank you for your willingness to listen, to understand the geopolitics in Ethiopia. Ethiopia, most of us know, having beautiful injera. That's one of the most amazing food, the culture, the history behind it. And we have over 110 million people that, for the most part, have lived side by side, no matter what tribe they belong to, what language they spoke and speak, and what religion they practice, or whether or not they practice religion. The political crisis Ethiopia got itself into is a few years back, as we all in the diaspora, Ethiopians, Eritreans, East Africans, and most who love Ethiopia knows we Ethiopians are good people. We are loving people. But we have very few
Yeah.
that the moment they get power, they get it twisted and they don't think twice. Their poor decision making to declare war against their own civilians, their own citizens in their own country, the dire consequences financially, the loss of life, the permanent PTSD, the injuries that civilians are suffering and encountering for 34 days, folks. 34 days. Many of us from the Tigray region who migrated at a various time in our lifetime. Some of us came here at a very young age, like myself and Gunnet and Ephrem. You've been here for a while as well. And those who came here at an older age. I have family here that came at an older age. I grew up in California, being proud to translate in, my beautiful native language that the Derg regime in the past, the previous administration, have attempted to silence the Eritreans, which Eritrea became independent in 1993. For those who are not familiar with the geography, they fought and bled and brought, in fact, freedom and some good level-headed leader to Ethiopia. And Ethiopia was registering 10% GDP under Prime Minister Meles Zenawi until tragically died of an illness. That the world was shocked. Susan Rice, she was a UN ambassador at that time. World leaders from all over traveled to Ethiopia to say goodbye to one of the greatest prime minister that Ethiopia have had, that had united its people. The economy was vibrant throughout Ethiopia. Addis Ababa became the hub economically in Africa. South Africa used to be the hub. Addis Ababa airport is not made out of cardboard, got shipped from the Amhara diaspora who hate to destroy ethnically based ethnic cleansing on the Tigray people, my family. They didn't bring cardboard from Washington, D.C., from Los Angeles, and made it look beautiful. The infrastructure in Addis Ababa was well put together, well managed under the coalition of the APRDF who governed Ethiopia. A few years back, we all know, the Oromo movement forced the Ethiopian prime minister to submit his resignation to the House of Representatives, and there was a peaceful transition in government. Abiy Ahmed, the current self-claimed prime minister, whose leadership actually ended at the beginning of October this year because he refused to hold election back in May. In America and in most democratic society around the globe, you hold an election. The people vote. The people get to decide who their next leader is going to be. If it's like the United States of America, for 4 years. If it's like Canada, Ethiopia, that's run based on a prime minister, it's a 5-year term. Abiy Ahmed's term expired at the beginning of October. So he removed most of the top leadership in the army. He arrested almost every opposition that he knew, if election were to be held, that he would not win. And he have terrorized the Oromo in the south, the Somali, who are not Somalia, but the Somali Ethiopians, the Ogaden. Hundreds and hundreds of people have been displaced. A few hundred after the well-known Oromo musician was assassinated, have died on the hands of Abiy Ahmed order to silence the Oromo people. So it is a senseless war, I say, because in a level-headed mindset, democratic society, You sit down and debate. You debate and you let your audience, you people, decide who your next leader should be. But because Abiy Ahmed knew, and he still knows, he cannot win in a ballot box, he's terrorizing 6.5 million people in the Tigray region that is part of Ethiopia. The Tigray people did not ask and are not asking to split from Ethiopia. So to my fellow Americans, every man and woman around the world who knows the history, let me make it clear. The Tigray government was legitimately elected by 2.7 million legally registered voters, while the regional government successfully, kept COVID-19 very well under control. When Ethiopia received millions of COVID masks to be distributed among Ethiopians, the federal government at that time, Abiy Ahmed's government, refused to allow any assistance to go to the Tigray region. Roads have been blocked by the Amhara militia. As those in the diaspora understand, access roads in Ethiopia, there's a few roads to get from one state to another. To the Tigray region from the central, Addis Ababa from the central government is where it's based. You have either from the south of Mekelle to Addis Ababa, or you go through I believe it's more like a northeastern through Afar to get to Tigray. So in the Amhara region, the south, the militia in the Amhara region blocked roads a couple of years ago. The Tigray leadership did not go fight them. They could have, but that's not what they believe. That's not how they believe to solve problems. So what do? They submit letters, complaint letters to the central government to remove the illegal action and blockage of transportation. And Abiy Ahmed's response to that, he was too busy dancing around, bringing a foreign invader, Eritrea, preparing to massacre civilians in Tigray. Today, Abiy Ahmed's military fired their weapons on United Nations humanitarian aid who are going to Tigray to assist a few people, not everybody, but a few people who have been starving, who has been thirsty, who need to be warm and sheltered. The government of Ethiopia, like a few days ago, signed a deal to the UN, United Nations, saying the areas that the federal government troop controls, he will allow humanitarian aid to go in freely and help the Tigray people, and that he was going to build the Tigray region. Today, as I speak to you all, that's not what's happening on the ground. Look no farther. Don't take my word for it. Take a look Al Jazeera. Take a look BBC. Even CNN is catching on now. I know the US is consumed with the current political crisis, but folks, open up your mind and your heart. We're talking about disaster that's humanitarian disaster. We have United Arab Emirates, the United States of America, my country, that sold drone. That same drone, there is an agreement. When a foreign country purchases a military equipment from the United States of America, those military equipments, there's a promise and there's an agreement that those equipments are not to be used in any civilian. Today, in the past 34 days, that's exactly what's happening. I'm using this as an opportunity, as an introduction of the general view to those who are new to this audience. Secretary Pompeo, shame on you, sir. Shame on you. You call Abiy Ahmed almost every other day. He calls you. Mr. Secretary, please be a hero. We have mothers, fathers, children crying because the Ethiopian government, whose mandate has expired, is using military forces on civilians to kill innocent women and children. Little girls in Tigray are being raped by troops. Shame on you, Mr. Secretary. So please, before January 20, before Christmas Day, we're tired of waiting for you. We're tired of you saying one thing behind closed doors when you call and talk to the Ethiopian Prime Minister, who should not be a Prime Minister, and publicly saying something is going to change. I've been in touch with the State Department, sir. I have been in contact. I'm heartbroken. I'm tired of crying. We have a new administration coming in. By January 20, and shortly after that, I'm afraid that it will be too late. By then, we will have a genocide already taking place in my birthplace. I'm proud to be American, but I'm also a proud Ethiopian from the Tigray region who is unable to sleep, unable to make a phone call to my family and to see how they're doing, what's happening to them. I can't send them money to support my family. Their crop, which is the end of the season now, they're supposed to be harvesting their crops right now. They're supposed to be in the final stages of bringing it from the field so that it can last them for the next 6-7 months or longer. They no longer have access to that. They're dying. They are being murdered. I have recently mentioned this, and I'm going to repeat it. From what I know, in my birthplace of Ethiopia, in my adopted, beloved country, America, when we butcher animals, we butcher them with dignity, respectfully. Please don't take me the wrong way, those of you who do not eat meat. The comparison I'm giving you here is my people in Ethiopia, in the Tigray region, which is northern Ethiopia, bordering Eritrea, are being butchered on the ground by the Amhara militia, are being shot at and killed by the Eritrean military that deploy more than 140,000 Eritrean troops are in Tigray today as we speak, fighting, and we have clear evidence that they've been captured, and they have stated that they were forced to go fight. In the south and mixed up in the northeast of Tigray, you have the federal troops along with the Amhara troops massacring people. About 3 days ago, there was a false rumor that it was announced the Tigray leadership was captured. For several hours in celebration, they were firing weapons. When they found out that was a false news, which always first by the federal government, they start going after villagers, the poor people in the Tigray region, and they start slaughtering them again. Today, this afternoon, we learned the Ethiopian government refused an independent investigators to go in to investigate the massacre because they want to cover up. So I challenge every human being who's got brother, who's got sister, who's a mom, a dad, a daughter, a son, to think what's happened out there. We should not go to sleep knowing so many children, so many women are being murdered, are being raped, are starving to death by their government because he cannot win election on the ballot box. And I'm sick and tired of the same politics that we deal through every 20, 30 years in my country. So I'm asking and I'm challenging respectfully to all of you who are listening to this. And you have friends and families. Please wake up. Please help us to stop in the war. I'm not asking for us to declare war on Ethiopia. I'm asking people to reach out their representatives and to please challenge them. We need the war to stop now, and we need to have an adult sit-down conversation on the table. I know that I tend to talk quite a bit, but I'm emotional, and I apologize that I'm taking too much of your time. Goodness,
No worries,
I
no worries.
want to be
Actually,
respectful, but thank you.
I didn't want to interrupt you because it was a great conversation that we had. Just to add a little bit of on your conversation that you say, the high government officials, including the General Saara Mokonnen, who is from Tigray. He have done a lifetime work for his country, Ethiopia. Chief of General Staff of the Ethiopian National Defense Force was murdered, and we haven't heard any justice. Not only him, but also there are a lot of with him other general Gazai Abara, and there are a lot of political leaders also was still are in prison. General Kempfer, who was done a lot of Maytech, and he made a lot of buses, and he saved a lot of the money, the currency that building a lot of stuff in Ethiopia, and also was done a lot of things for Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Is already he's also in prison. There are a lot of political active leaders. The Oromia political leader, who is his name is Jawar Mohammed Lidatu, and others are still in. There is no politics. There is no political leaders. There are no competitives now. That's why because his mandate is already over, and when the due date is coming up for the election time, he took all those political leaders to the prison, and he left alone. He left with those supporters only. I don't call them those are opposition party. Those party who left around him are the supporters, the haters. So we don't have no opposition party no more. Those all parties that they remain with him are the supporters. They just change different names, but they have the same page as Biltsegana has. Federal roads to Tigray region have been blocked to intimidate the people and create economic impact and social crisis. To verify elected Tigrayan officials and the public opinions, the government is spreading well-designed, toxic, black propagandas and false informations. As you remember, he called them those official elected Tigrayan leaders, junta or hyena, the daytime hyena. The government human rights violation. He's how could you call a people representative? Sometimes I feel like, is he like unprofessional activist, or is he a prime minister? I mean, he doesn't have the ethical, the manner, the Ethiopian manner to respect those political leaders. So I'm always, when I heard about this is a prime minister, Abiy Ahmed is a prime minister, Abiy Ahmed is a Nobel Peace Prize winner, I feel ashamed. I always feel ashamed. I don't consider myself Ethiopian because Ethiopia is doing. I don't consider myself Ethiopian at this time because all they do is very. I'm ashameful. I don't think Ethiopia is going to be the capital city of Africa anymore if she keep doing human rights violation. If they are killing their own people. The Sudan, as you said earlier, the Sudan government is helping us to protect our people, but not the Ethiopian government and Ethiopian militias are killing the. In May, you remember, in May 2019, nearly 3 million people are displaced due to the ethnic violence in Ethiopia since he came to the power, Abiy Ahmed. Last year, you remember, more people fled their homes in Ethiopia than in any other nation on earth. So innocent people of Tigray, Oromo, Sidama, Walaita, Afar, Kemant, Ago, Ethiopian, Somalian, and others are suffering under the civil wars and ethnic violence. As you remember, on June 29, 2020, Hajalu Hundesa was killed, and he's trying to displace. He has a displacement issue. He's trying to displace the issue to Tigray because Tigray was the only regional state was peacefully, and all the ethnic was in Mekelle University and other places. People from Amhara, people from Oromo, from other people. No one was hurt because of their identity, because of their ethnic issue. So there are a lot of economical crisis at this time. I don't even know how we can recover from it. And in the past, the humanitarian crisis is bubbling in every corner of the country. According to the United Nations report, there are over 7 million Ethiopian was identified as needing humanitarian aid due to displacement caused by the conflict. Security forces, disease outbreak is, we are very vulnerable right now for COVID-19. None of the military, the Ethiopian militaries are protecting themselves. They don't use masks. They are going to Tigray people. Tigray people where everybody was using masks, everybody was using social distancing when they do election. They were well-disciplined people. But now the Ethiopian army are going to each town without mask. They are killing people. The Eritrean government, who doesn't follow any of the international rules, are going to Tigray without mask. They are killing people. So I feel nauseated when I hear and when I talk about this thing. And they are distracting all the infrastructures in Tigray. We had a lot of health sectors. We had textile. They just they are taking them to Eritrea. Abiy Ahmed and his generals are watching, and they don't even say anything or trying to protect the Tigray people. They feel like we are betrayed by Ethiopian government, as we are still Ethiopians. Tigrayans are not a country, but we are invaded by Eritrean and other countries, and the Ethiopian government is helping political party, but the people of Tigray. So, how do you guys think about the economical? When do you think we're going to recover from this? And we just, since we start about the infrastructure, and see, you guys can add some idea or opinion on this matter. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ephrem. Well, as far as coming back or trying to restore the economy, if the war doesn't stop immediately, this very second, we're already plummeting. We've already plummeted. We were already an impoverished nation. And from that, we're also deepening that. And through this war, Abiy, instead of protecting the people, instead of using the money that's there towards helping the people for the health, as far as for COVID, we'll touch base on that because there's highly affected people in Ethiopia altogether. But instead of getting that money and, addressing the malnourishment, the humanitarian aid issues, there existed humanitarian aid issues prior to the war. So why would you inflict war on people who are already impoverished? You're saying you're going to help, you're saying you're going to restore, yet you're destroying the very bits that the people have. So you leave them with nothing, you destroy them, you kill them, all of that. What is the results? What is he looking for? What is he trying to do? Let's think about that as a people. Let's cross-check our references as well. There's so many falsified information that's out there, and to fit his propaganda, and who is putting that out there? He himself. So the messages that will be thrown out into the world, it's only coming from the perpetrator himself. So how do we get that to stop? How do we get that to end? So if this war, if the international world does not understand the magnitude of the effects of this on Tigray people, this is Tigray genocide. This is not just a joke. This is not something, oh, it's just a war. Oh, we're not going to mind African war. They'll, let's just let them deal with it. No, this is destroying the entire people of Tigray. You are Tigrinya speaking, and Tigrinya speaking, by the way, is us Tigray people, including Eritrean people as well. So he is having Eritreans, who are our brothers and sisters, fight us, So when you're having this cycle, if this war doesn't end, our economy, how will that return back? Ethiopia was increasingly ascending to the greatest heights, and it's been economically, it's all over the news. It's been all over the news this past couple of decades, but now it has plummeted. All the resources are used towards war. And then you're going to have bombardment on the people, civilians. Yet he says he's not attacking any civilians. There are no children in war. Yet we see the videos in the refugee camps. We see the magnitude and the impact that it is having on the actual people. He's not allowing any humanitarian aid. We don't have any assistance. And then he made an agreement, right, a few days ago. Yet he goes back, and the troops, they shoot at the humanitarians. So you're blocking every bit of how to help the people, even though you're inflicting the pain yourself onto the people. Yet when someone else from the outside tries to come in, there's no way they can help, because he has blocked every bit of any form of assistance. So now we're dealing with no electricity, no communication lines, no kind of internet connection whatsoever. So he's leaving Tigray in the dark, complete darkness. And us, as the diaspora, people who have immigrated at young age, who have experienced, we come from war. So we know the impact that war has, right? So all three of us here on the panel, we know how it has affected us as young children. We witnessed war, so we know that. But after passing so many years, you have over 30 years of such progress, yet you want to demolish that progress. Ethiopia has been coming up here. Now you just want to destroy every bit of the infrastructure and the history. I mean, we're known as the non-colonized nation, yet our own central government attempts to colonize its own people on a daily basis by inflicting such pain. The pain of imprisoning someone just because they don't go along with whatever you say. They say they want to form democracy. There is no such democracy. It is just fabricated lies to get the outside Western world to believe. And we're doing that by social media. He's just spreading all this falsified news. And then you get a counter to whatever the exact statement he made. Then he adds another falsified information, right? So we are dealing with a pathological sociopath. There's no way he will fix it. There's no way he will stop. But we need the external world to come in and help the people of Tigray. And by helping the people of Tigray, you're not only helping Tigray people, you are helping Eritrean people, you are helping Somali people, you are helping the entire region of East Africa. And then also within Ethiopia alone, it's not only Tigray people who have been affected the past couple of years. As Ephrem, as you've mentioned, and as Michael, as you've mentioned, it's affected the entire regions of Ethiopia. No one is trying to buy his falsified information, yet He's trying to fool the Western world so we don't get the aid that we need. And then when they do find out the truth, then they come back, they try to help, he blocks it again. So as far as referencing COVID-19, he used COVID-19 to, pretty much X out the election, right? But yet we have a war, full-fledged war, doesn't care about COVID, nothing at all, right? So this is a serious global health problem. We are sitting at home. Where are you guys right now? Because of the pandemic, we've been stuck at home for the past year practically, right? So if that's happening here and there's global health organization that is trying to implement how do we decrease COVID, yet this war is infesting and spreading COVID like there's nothing else. So even in Ethiopia, there's over 100,000 cases, confirmed cases. He knows that, right? He's supposed to be the prime minister. He should know that information, yet he's inflicting war. And then these people, our people, Tigray people, we are great people. Even though the central government did not help us, we made sure we wore like our masks. We made sure to keep our social distancing. We don't wait on anybody to help us. We are known to help ourselves in the forefront always. Even if we don't have something to eat, your neighbor will feed you, right? But at this time, guess what's happening? No water, no electricity, no food. So it's been 34 days. How long can a human being survive without any of those essential resources? Let's think, please. Come in with your human instinct, humanity. Help. Representatives out there, help end this war right now, not tomorrow, not in January, not whenever. We don't need to wait for the next representatives. We need to implement change right now, and that is by ending the war. And this pandemic with COVID-19, it's spreading. A lot of people are highly focused on that. This war needs to stop so that spread can stop as well. Please, we beg you. We have not spoke to our families. We don't know, the victims that are being slaughtered, that are being murdered, that are all of this. We don't know if those are our family members or not. We are sleepless nights. We are unable to show our emotions because we have children, right? How can you not speak to your family, let alone if you don't talk to them for one day? How do you feel if you don't talk to your parents or someone? Now it's been 34, going on 35 days. What is the impact that it will have on you? Just put yourself in our shoes, even just as a human being. What would you do? And please reach out to your representatives. You don't need to be a person of Tigray descent to do that. Fight for us as a nation, as a people, as just a human being. Find the humanity in you to get the change to stop this war. And that needs to happen right now.
Yeah. Okay. I think. I'm sorry. There is some echoes going on in there. The next discussion will be. I think we need to ask we, the Tigrayans. Who live in Washington, not only in Washington State, not only in Oregon State, but in the entire United States. We should request urgent help to stop the Ethiopian government daily inflicting inhuman and cruel political and economic and social injustice on the Ethiopian people in general and the Tigray people in particular. After 20 plus years of peaceful democracy and experiencing economic development is now on the brink of returning to an authoritarian regime, which is affected I wouldn't. I never thought that Ethiopia is going to be after the entire effort of the TPLF after fighting 17 years with Derg regime, dictatorial regime. We have made a lot of people trying to govern themselves in the parliament and all that. To see a dictatorship back again, it's a very uh, unlikely, to see all these kinds of stuff. So, anyways, the Tigray infrastructure we have already touched from our conversation. The COVID-19 we have already touched, and the malnutrition, and so the next will be, I think, what we need to see is the solution and the suggestions. The ethnic-based intimidation and arrest is being experienced by diverse ethnic groups, which has resulted in hate speech and militant ethno-nationalism. The people of Ethiopia now quite well the difference between tyranny and freedom for they have experienced it under the military junta government of Abiy Ahmed. Of the current government is we need. I'm asking this for the humanitarian, the international humanitarian, the U.S. government, the UAE, and all urgently needed to protect the life and livelihood of the Ethiopian people. As you have heard or seen, some of U.S. senators like Tina Smith from Minnesota, Adam Smith from Michigan, he enlisted governments actually. We need more senators and congressmen to release their statements to help the Tigray people. Mike said earlier he has an appointment with Oregon senators. We need to hear a statement from those senators and congressmen about the political situations in Tigray. Mike and you also explained that the humanitarian they couldn't able to go freely to Tigray to help the Tigrayan people. They've been intimidated. They've been shot. I don't know if they got shot, but they have heard fired on them, and uh, they made them uncomfortable. They made them uncomfortable to go to help the people of Tigray. So as a nation that has been a beacon of hope around the globe for decades and has long history of defending basic human rights during Meles Zenawi, as you remember, we have had Eritrean refugees, we have had Somalian refugees, Sudan refugees, even people from Syria came to Ethiopia to stay with Ethiopia during the TPLF government. The army, the Ministry of Defense were peacekeeping around the entire world. They went to Rwanda and other countries. But now they couldn't able to make the peace in Ethiopia. The army is changed already. They are killing their own people. They're not army people anymore. They are serving for the dictatorship regime of Abiy Ahmed. So all this, I think we need to collaborate and to stop this confrontation, taking to each other in Ethiopia. And Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, he needs to be um, rejected from our mind, and his peace prize needs to be revoked. I don't think he deserves that. He needs to. We need to have a justice, and this is what I need to say before I give a chance to Mike. Okay, Mike, it's yours now. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, guys. Both of you cover a lot of ground. Again, a senseless war is what brought us here for this discussion. No matter what we think, no matter who we want to blame, there's one person to be blamed for this crisis. That name is Abiy Ahmed. Abiy Ahmed who received a peaceful transition in government is responsible for the massacre in Mekdar, northern Tigray, the continuous bombing by the Ethiopian Air Force, by the Eritrean Air Force, by the Eritrean ground troops, by the Amhara militia. I cannot emphasize enough that soldiers throughout the country in Ethiopia fought side by side. And to then only be told, you know, because of your ID, because your identity doesn't fit my narrative, you are from from a region that I don't like, you now are stripped your roles, positions, weapons, and rounded up, and nobody knows where you're at. A couple days ago, in Somalia, Ethiopia has peacekeepers, fellow Tigrayans who proudly serve as Ethiopians in Somalia under the African Union, were told to disarm, and when they refused, there was a shootout. We don't know which side, you know, was what, but we know that there's like reports out there. 3 soldiers were killed. Ethiopians killing fellow Ethiopians. They were on a peacekeeping mission, and a central government who's gone wild west is ensuring that everyone from the peace-loving region of Tigray who believes in peace and democracy should not coexist with their fellow Ethiopians. You talked about opposition being arrested. We know throughout the 2019 and early 2020, Abiy Ahmed was busy ordering assassination on top military generals who served their country proudly, like General Ta'ame you mentioned. And we can go on and on. But to the audience who are not familiar with the politics internally in Ethiopia, rather than bore you with the details, in general, we have a prime minister who's supposed to hold the election, as we stated earlier, and we've stated in the segment in Tigray now, knew that he could not get elected by the people because he lost faith. When he was given the Nobel Prize, he became so hyped, you could actually give him apple juice and tell him this is beer, and he will drink it, and he would think that he just got drunk drinking apple juice, thinking it was beer.
Sure.
This guy is out of control. So instead of wasting our time, let us please stand together to save lives. Innocent lives that do not deserve to die. There's crisis in Ethiopia today. Those of you who are working hard, raising money, reaching out to your congressmen and women and senators, thank you. We appreciate you. We love you. We need you. We need more of you. So, the crisis that's happening today has gone on for too long. 34 days is too many days. So, I ask each and every one of you, Eritreans, Tigrayans, we have been attacked before. Over 100,000 Eritrean refugees in Tigray, near Shire, were rounded up, picked up, and taken back to Eritrea. There is international law that a refugee hosting country is supposed to protect the refugees. Will the United Nations, the human rights watchdog, speak about this? Will they stand against evil? Or will they just dance around it because the massacre, the horrific thing that's happening in Ethiopia is not in Europe like Yugoslavia. So we don't need to urgently ask the United Nations to host an emergency meetings to force the Ethiopian Prime Minister to stop murdering innocent civilians. If not, how many fighter jets would it take for him to be stopped? How many? We need a couple F-22 fighter jets from the United States of America, to be honest with you. Or, for that matter, Secretary Pompeo can actually call him and tell him, if you don't stop it, we're going to make you stop it. I guarantee that he will, because he have nowhere to run. Eritrea ain't going to save him. Isaias Afwerki has starved his own people. Eritrean people have gone through so much misery. They're our brothers and sisters. They look like us. They walk like us. They talk like us. They speak like us. Our language is Tigrinya. We are interconnected, folks, through marriage. I mean, we're bloodly related. We're one. Hundreds of Eritreans have resided throughout Tigray and enjoy the freedom and the peace that the Tigray regional government, when Ethiopia was out of control by ethnic divisions and killings throughout, when Abiy Ahmed's forces were out busy killing innocent civilians in Oromia and all over southern Ethiopia, Tigray people stood united, kept building their region, and stood for freedom and welcomed Eritreans who were escaping executions. I know I have like many Eritrean friends in California where I spent years, that in Seattle, that supported, sent money, have been sending money up until now, up until about 34 days ago. We're talking folks that we didn't mention today. Bank accounts are frozen if you're from Tigray. You can't go even in outside Tigray. If you with your ID, because it puts you back in the tribal region of Tigray, you can't take your own money out. The moment you show your ID, you get it picked up, and nobody will ever see you again.
Yep.
So we have crisis happening in Ethiopia that is horrifying, that is sad, and we need the world to please stand up. Stand up together, that we do not have to repeat Rwanda of 1995. We can Google, and many of you can see the number of people who were killed with the machete in Rwanda. The Tigray people do not deserve this. And it is one man being a puppet of another man in a neighboring country. And to the Arabs, to the United Arab Emirates, shame on you. Shame on you to use an American-sold drone to drop bombs on my people. East Africa is a land of Africans. It's not a land of Arabs. Please stay in your own pocket. Leave us alone. Leave our people alone. So those of you who are aware of demographically, the United Arab Emirates does not have land ties with Africa, but it has military base in Eritrea, because it believes that by spreading the Arab culture and everything else, that I'm not going to be political here when it comes to religion and other things, it wants to create predominantly, and I'll tell you this, over 96% people in Tigray are Christians. But we know that we have wonderful Muslims. We have other religions that we welcome them. We don't have religion issue, but we know how certain Arab countries feel about us. On the other hand, we have Sudan, who is predominantly Muslim and Arab. They love us. They know because they know who we are. They understand us. We are peace-loving people. But the United Arab Emirates is making a grave mistake, getting involved in a domestic political crisis that war was not warranted to begin with. and it is determined to kill as many civilians as possible. So I challenge my American friends who are watching tonight to please email your congressmen and congresswomen, call them, tell them that do the right thing, come out publicly and forcefully to pressure the U.S. State Department to stop. And if necessary, we challenge the United States government actually to pull its diplomat from Addis Ababa in protest. Mm-hmm. And I love the Israeli people, but if something like this would happen in Israel and other countries, I guarantee the United States of America will be quick for action. Mm-hmm. So reasonable Americans, Canadians, Australians, and the European Union, please wake up. Mm-hmm. Please help the crying babies and mothers out there who, not at their own fault, have been terrorized by a government who took an oath, swore under the Constitution to uphold it, and turn around and terrorizing and killing its citizens. It took 30 years for Ethiopia to economically to be the powerhouse in Africa. It took one man 30 days to destroy it. And that's a sad reality. But along that, civilians are the target, and the cover-up continues.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you so much. So at the end, if you do have any messages that you want to relay for our defense forces in Tigray, our people in Tigray, and the Eritrean people who are helping parallelly and as strong as the Tigrayan people for their own right and defense, and our Tigrayan diasporas, and for at the same time for the government of Ethiopia and the United Nations and others. Maybe something that we forgot to mention on our discussion and conversation. I will give you a couple of minutes for each of you to relay your messages. And I'm always humble and thankful for both of you to have you on Cyber Power of Tigray. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ephrem. I think as a people, globally, we need to really look at the essential just strategies, how to stop this war. It is by reaching out to our council members, legislators, anyone in writing, through emails, getting together collectively to really address this issue and to bring an end to this war. That is the only way we are going to help the people back home. Seeing that this is a humanitarian crisis, we need somehow, some way to force the Ethiopian government, and I don't know personally how that is done, but for those political leaders, please take this opportunity to save people. Targeted, this is genocide on a particular group of people and ethnic cleansing. Know that that's what this war is about, and not just any, I'm trying to go after juntas or criminals. There is no such thing. This is essentially ethnic cleansing, genocide. That's all. See it as that. And how do we stop this today? Not tomorrow, not any other time, but today. And restoring the electricity, water, communication lines, and for us to get in touch with our families. How do we know if our families are alive or not? None of us know.
Today.
So I know the connection is very bad. It's kind of coming in and out, but
that too. I don't know why. I think the weather is still windy.
It is. But if you can still hear us, we just encourage you as the audience, write your comments below. How can we address this? What can we do? How can we reach out to you as well? If you are representatives who are listening to this, how can we get in touch and make a difference? How can we work together to help the people of Tigray, help the people of Eritrea, help the people of Somalia, all along the lines of Horn Africa and throughout Africa and globally? And let's address this immediately. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ganat. Hey, Mike.
Well, first of all, Ephraim, thank you. I know that the connectivity has been very poor with heavy rains, and you're doing the best you can to put this together. And your time.
Never been like this. I don't know what's going on today. I think the weather is so bad or something going on. But I have very good internet access here for some reason. I'm sorry.
It's very rainy in Seattle too. It's windy today, so
I think the audience is going to forgive us because there's a bigger mission than our connectivity issue. So what I'd like to summarize this with is, first of all, those of our who are in the diaspora, particularly Tigrayan Americans, Ethiopian Americans, meaning from the Tigray region. I know that we have not been mobilized in the past, but what I have seen in these past weeks is amazing energy, despite the heartbreaking things that we see on a regular basis. The amount of networking and communication and fundraisings and everything that I have seen, I cannot tell you how proud I am to be one of you, which is why a number of us are pushing to host a West Coast Tagaro task force for us to be able to connect folks in Washington and Oregon, California, Nevada, Colorado, perhaps add Arizona. If you have, we know there's Eritreans and there's Tagaro, which is the definition, those from Tigray. For those of you who are hearing certain words that you may not heard them before, Tagaro defines all gender, those of us from the Tigray region. We ask you to reach out to network as Gannet said. Find us on social media through Facebook, through Twitters. Join us. Let us unite together. Let us build a nationwide network that is going to stand for peace, stability. Let us not hate. I know I'm frustrated. I know in my Tigrayan segment I became emotional earlier, but I want you to know that we're better. We could do better by standing together. We are witnessing massacre on the hands of evil. So to stop that, please speak up. Don't get angry, but softly and kindly, we can change the world. We can stop what's happening. We just need more of you to speak up. Mm-hmm. It is the will of the people and the power of the people that can change. And if we can unite, if you can support us, there's many of us, we are dedicating many, many hours, evenings and weekends, those of us who work 8 to 5, Monday through Friday type of job, or those who work different shifts, juggling their life with what's happening back home. I was so amazed when I saw like how many bags of clothing, brand new clothing have been purchased in the Seattle area and put together. The community in Seattle, the amount of money that Seattle is raising, the community here in Oregon and Portland, the amount of money that's being raised. Colorado, I reached out to a number of you in Denver and talked to you. You are like reaching almost 300,000 in fundraising that you're raising. I am so proud of you, my people. In Las Vegas, Oakland, San Jose, LA. I mean, I can go on and on and on. I know those of you in the East Coast listening to this, you're doing awesome too. Know that, your heart is pure. We also know that you hurt, because it hurts when you see innocent people being killed. We know that. We know that. But your kindness, when I hear people raising money to make sure a fellow Tigrayan in Washington, D.C., who was kicked out from their job while they worked and served their country, Ethiopia, as diplomats, that is such a beautiful thing, people. Folks, I just want to say I love you guys. To my people, to our people in Tigray, we know what you're going through. Tarawi, I see a screen. Tagara Lives Matter. Yes.
Yeah.
It's just the same way when we hear Black Lives Matter, when we saw George Floyd being murdered, America stood up. Over 60% of the protesters that we saw in support of Black Lives Matter were white, beautiful Americans who stood up for humanity, for justice. And that does not say white lives does not matter. For those who doesn't understand the simple definition, Black Lives Matter, Tagaro lives matter, meaning the people of Tigray, they matter too.
Absolutely.
So please, stand with us. Abiy Ahmed, thank you, must go.
Yes.
It's this time. We need a transitional government in Ethiopia, and is going through right now, until peace is restored, democratic election is held, independent investigators are entered to Ethiopia and investigate and bring those who are massacring innocent civilians are brought to the court of tribunal court in The Hague to face justice. Because we do believe in justice, not using the barrel of the gun. As I mentioned earlier, when Eritrean troops are captured in Tigray, when the Amharas and the federal troops are captured in Tigray, fighting and destructing the infrastructure in Tigray, they're not being executed on the spot. They've been given respect. Medical, they've been treated in the best way they can, while many of our people actually are chopped off in pieces. And so, to leave it in a positive note, I wanted to say to the Eritreans and to the Tigrayans and the rest of you who are supporting my people, our people in Tigray, standing with the diaspora, I cannot thank you enough, but know that your support emotionally, financially, means everything to us. And that's what we need. Please continue the fight. We will get it through. We will get through this. And when it's over, those criminals who are terrorizing their own citizens will face justice. And I hope the victims who are terrorized by this evil will actually have an opportunity to face the criminals in a court of law where they can testify the abuse they have experienced. I thank you, and I look forward in future discussions like this so that we can inform those who have not been following what's happening in Tigray, northern region of Ethiopia. And we hope this war will end soon rather than later, like Sister Gannett said, so that electricity could be stored in Tigray, internet can be stored in Tigray, so that the people on the ground can have basic access to the basic needs that we take all for granted. But most importantly, what is Abiy Ahmed hiding for not restore electricity and internet? The simple fact is that will reveal the fact on the ground, because people will use social media to post the fact.
Yeah.
And so he handpicked a guy from the Tigray region that he wants to tell what to do. He brings his army apparatus to control those areas, and he want to tell us that, oh, you see, you don't remove democratically elected leader and replace them with your choice of handpicked person to serve your purpose. So with that said, I think we spent quite a bit of time covering a lot of these areas that takes quite some time. So I want to say thank you to you, Gannett, for joining us tonight. Ephrem, again, we appreciate you hosting this and working countless of hours and taking care of your kids. And it's amazing to have my fellow Tigrayans like you guys to be able to have a discussion like this and to be able to share my frustrations and my sorrows and everything. And to the audience, you know, we love them. It's like it's you guys who's making me keep going. I mean, I'm taking like such a short sleep every night now because I'm just like, I got to fight for my people. I got to stand for my people. And I'm going to continue my Tigrinya spreading it all over the world and continue to, with English as well. But let us unite, let us stand together, and we'll make Tigray proud once and for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And Cyber Power of Tigray, always. We will have more discussion on current situation of some development of Tigray, beloved mother Tigray. And we have to expose the junta Ethiopian government for the entire world to keep doing the Twitter campaign at least twice a day, the hashtag of the Stop War on Tigray and the Stop Genocide on Tigray. And also the other announcement that we have is December 10, the Women Association from Washington, D.C., they have rally around the UAE embassy. So please join them. People who live around the Virginia and Maryland, Washington, D.C. I bye guys, both of you, Mike and Gannet. Thank you so much for being with me today. Uh, until I see some other time. Good night. And for today, Cyber Power of Tigray has ended our program. Thank you so much.
Thank you.